Say these 5 things every morning. Carl Jung's secret to unshakable power. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Every morning, your words either shape your destiny or repeat your past. What if the secret to unshakable power lies not in what happens to you, but in what you declare to yourself before the world even begins? In today's video, from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll uncover 5 transformative statements that align your mind, body, and soul with divine strength and inner peace. Which of these truths speaks to you most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's begin this morning ritual of awakening together. 1. Morning is the golden hour to regenerate the mind. Morning is the golden hour to regenerate the mind because in those first few minutes after waking, your brain naturally enters the alpha and theta states, the same frequencies linked to deep relaxation, healing, and subconscious reprogramming. This is when your mind is soft, open, and most receptive to suggestion. It's the doorway between the dream world and waking consciousness, where spirituality and spiritual awakening become more accessible. In this delicate state, every thought, every word, and every mental image acts like a command shaping your inner world. When you use this sacred window to repeat powerful beliefs, to affirm who you are becoming, or to visualize your future with clarity and calmness, you are not merely daydreaming. You are restructuring the architecture of your mind. Neuroscience now confirms what ancient mystics always understood. Through neuroplasticity, your brain constantly rewires itself, forming new pathways in response to repeated focus and intention. And because cortisol levels naturally rise in the morning, your mind becomes sharper, more alert, and ready to absorb what you feed it. By choosing empowering thoughts at sunrise, you transform this biological shift into a spiritual practice. You are teaching your subconscious who you wish to be. The process is not about forcing change, but allowing your higher self to guide your awareness gently toward alignment. When you awaken with purpose, your mind becomes like fertile soil, and the first seeds planted, whether words of faith, gratitude, or confidence, determine what will bloom throughout the day. This is how spiritual awakening begins, through small, conscious acts repeated in the stillness of dawn. It is not the loud affirmations that hold power, but the consistency of quiet conviction that rewrites your inner story. When practiced daily, this ritual strengthens your emotional resilience, focuses your energy, and harmonizes your thoughts with your spiritual essence. Carl Jung taught that transformation happens when the conscious mind communicates clearly with the unconscious. Morning is the precise moment this dialogue is easiest to access. As you rise, your waking self can whisper new instructions to the deeper mind, shaping your perception and behavior for the hours ahead. If you remind yourself that you are capable, guided, and connected to a higher force, your day begins from power rather than reaction. Each morning, you are offered a chance to return to your center, to replace doubt with faith, fear with clarity, and distraction with awareness. This isn't just positive thinking, it's spiritual science. It is the merging of mind, body, and soul into one coherent vibration that radiates stability and purpose. When you understand that your morning consciousness is the bridge between dreams and reality, you realize that those few quiet moments are not trivial. They are transformative. The words you speak to yourself then echo through the day, influencing decisions, emotions, and even the energy you emit. By awakening with presence and choosing your thoughts deliberately, you step into the role of creator, not victim. You align your psychology with your spirituality, and in doing so, you regenerate not just your mind, but your entire being. 2. Foundations of Stoic philosophy and modern psychology. These 5 affirmations draw their power from ancient Stoic philosophy taught by Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, and from modern psychology, reminding you that every morning is an opportunity to reshape your inner world through deliberate thought. Because as Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And when you begin your day by choosing elevated thoughts, you set the tone for clarity, calmness, and intention. And although people often misunderstand Stoicism as emotional suppression, the truth is that Stoicism teaches emotional mastery, encouraging you to feel your emotions fully while refusing to let them control your actions. So as you speak these affirmations, you are grounding yourself in the understanding that emotions are signals, not dictators, and that real strength comes from learning how to respond with awareness instead of reacting from fear. Each affirmation becomes a tool that strengthens your spiritual development, because when you repeat them, you reinforce the neural pathways that support resilience, focus, and inner peace. And modern neuroscience confirms that the brain reorganizes itself based on repetition, which means every morning you speak these truths, you are literally training your mind to return to stability faster, to let go of unnecessary tension, and to move through challenges with greater composure. Stoicism teaches you that while you cannot control external events, you can always control the meaning you give them. And that single shift from external control to internal command is what transforms your entire life, allowing you to remain calm even when the world around you is unsettled. By grounding yourself in these teachings each morning, you remind yourself that peace is not something you chase. It is something you choose, because your emotional baseline is not determined by circumstances, but by the thoughts you consistently return to. And when you begin your day by affirming strength, clarity, and direction, you step into the world with a steady mind that cannot be easily shaken. These 5 affirmations also deepen your spirituality, because Stoicism is not just a philosophy, but a practice of inner alignment, teaching you to look inward for guidance, to treat each day as a new opportunity for growth, and to cultivate the kind of inner stillness that allows your highest self to lead instead of your fears. When you speak these affirmations, you are not merely saying words. You are choosing how your day will unfold. You are choosing the mindset you carry into your responsibilities, and you are choosing the energy you project into every interaction. The wisdom of Stoicism blends seamlessly with the insights of modern psychology to show you that inner peace is built through daily practice. Emotional strength develops through awareness, and spiritual awakening deepens when you take responsibility for the way you think, feel, and respond to life. 3. 5 morning truths to reframe your mind. Truth 1. I will encounter resistance today, and that's okay. This simple yet powerful truth holds the key to maintaining inner peace and emotional strength throughout the day. When you wake up and remind yourself of this, you are not inviting struggle. You are preparing your mind to meet life as it is. The moment you expect challenges, you take away their ability to surprise or overwhelm you. This is not about pessimism. It's about emotional readiness. As Marcus Aurelius once taught, the wise do not wish for life to be easy, but for themselves to be strong enough to face whatever comes. And Carl Jung's teachings align perfectly with this idea. He believed that resistance is not an obstacle, but a mirror, showing us the parts of ourselves that still need growth and balance. By anticipating difficulty, you rewire your nervous system to remain calm and focused even when chaos arises. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding consciously. Resistance, when seen through the lens of spirituality, becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. Each challenge, each misunderstanding, and each delay is not random. It is a message designed to expand your awareness and deepen your spiritual awakening. Life constantly tests your patience and your faith, but these tests are not meant to break you. They are meant to help you remember your strength. When you affirm that encountering resistance is perfectly okay, you shift from fear to acceptance, from anxiety to clarity, from avoidance to transformation. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that real power is not found in escaping difficulty, but in meeting it with grace. The next time frustration visits you, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" In that single shift of perception, you turn resistance into growth and pain into purpose. The more you embrace resistance, the more grounded you become, because your mind learns that peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of strength. This mindset, practiced daily, trains you to walk through the world with quiet confidence, no longer shaken by what used to intimidate you. You stop wishing for an easier day and begin creating a stronger you. This is the foundation of spiritual awakening, realizing that life's resistance is sacred in disguise. It sculpts your character, purifies your emotions, and aligns your inner world with divine timing. Every morning that you repeat this truth, you remind your soul that nothing outside of you can dictate your peace. The storms may come, but you are no longer afraid of them. You have already made peace with their presence. This calm acceptance, this ability to stay grounded in the middle of life's turbulence, is what gives you unshakable power. Truth 2. I can't control everything, but I can control how I show up. This simple truth, first taught by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, lies at the core of both ancient wisdom and modern psychology. He believed that while the world outside you may be unpredictable, your inner world, your attitudes, your choices, and your actions always belongs to you. Carl Jung echoed this in his teachings on spirituality and spiritual development, reminding us that true strength is not found in trying to dominate circumstances, but in mastering one's own responses to them. Life will test you with uncertainty, chaos, and people who do not act as you expect. Yet the way you rise to meet these moments defines your power, not the circumstances themselves. Modern psychology confirms this truth through the concept known as the locus of control. Those with an internal locus of control who believe their happiness, peace, and growth come from how they respond, not from what happens, are proven to be more resilient and fulfilled. When you wake up every morning and remind yourself, "I can't control everything, but I can control how I show up," you are consciously choosing spiritual alignment over emotional chaos. You begin to separate what's yours to carry from what isn't, focusing your energy on what truly matters. This is where real transformation begins, when you stop wasting energy fighting what's beyond you and start nurturing what's within you. Think about how often you lose peace trying to fix or predict everything around you. The traffic, the job, the people, the opinions, they are all external forces, temporary and unstable. But your inner state, your discipline, your ability to stay calm, kind, and clear, that is sacred ground. Spirituality is not about controlling life's storms. It's about learning how to stand still within them. Every time you take a deep breath instead of reacting, every time you choose gratitude instead of complaint, every time you pause before judgment, you strengthen your spiritual muscles and deepen your spiritual development. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." When you learn to accept that control is an illusion, accept over your own behavior, you begin to embody self-mastery. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming a conscious creator of your experience. Each morning, by affirming this truth, you train your mind to return to its rightful place of power within. You start to see life not as something that happens to you, but as something that responds to the energy you bring. And that shift changes everything. So stop trying to control life. Start mastering your presence. The universe will always move in ways you cannot predict. But your steadiness, your compassion, and your focus are your anchors. When you choose to show up with courage and awareness each day, you align with your higher self and open the door to true freedom. Remember, peace doesn't come from a life without challenges. It comes from your ability to stay centered despite them. So tomorrow morning, say it again. I can't control everything, but I can control how I show up. Let that sentence be your mantra, your morning prayer, your quiet rebellion against chaos. It is in this daily choice that your spirituality deepens, your spiritual development unfolds, and your power becomes unshakable. Truth 3. I am not my thoughts. I am the one who thinks them. When you affirm this third truth, I am not my thoughts, I am the one who thinks them, you step into a deeper realm of spiritual wisdom that Carl Jung considered essential for true self-mastery. Because the moment you separate who you are from what your mind produces, the entire inner landscape begins to shift in your favor. Your brain creates fear, doubt, and hesitation, not because something is wrong with you, but because its ancient purpose is survival, scanning for threats and preparing you for danger. Yet Jung reminded us that thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge, meaning your thoughts often react before your awareness awakens. So you must learn to stand above them rather than collapse beneath them. When you say to yourself each morning, I am not my thoughts, you reclaim the position of the observer, the chooser, the one who decides what deserves attention. And this shift alone begins dissolving the emotional chains that fear and old narratives have wrapped around you for so long. And as you let this truth live inside you, you begin practicing what psychologists call cognitive distancing, the simple but powerful act of watching your thoughts without automatically believing them. Instead of treating every fearful idea as a prophecy or every doubt as a warning, you observe them the way you would watch waves on the ocean. They rise, they fall, they pass. You start noticing that a thought like, "I am not enough," is not a fact, but merely a habit of the mind, a leftover echo from childhood wounds, social pressure, or past experiences. When you stand back and witness your thoughts instead of absorbing them, anxiety softens, your breathing deepens, and your emotional balance returns because you are no longer drowning in the story you are reading from above. Calm and awake. Jung explained this beautifully when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate," reminding you that thoughts only control you when you do not recognize them as thoughts. Through this daily practice, fear loses its authority over you because you no longer confuse the presence of fear with the truth of fear. Doubt loses its sharpness because you understand it comes from an overprotective mind, not from your actual potential. Negative thinking begins to fade because you are no longer feeding it with belief or attention. You begin to feel a new inner spaciousness, a sense of being grounded, centered, and free to choose what kind of energy you carry into your day. This is the heart of spiritual development, the point where you realize your inner self is not fragile, but powerful, not reactive, but intentional, not chaotic, but deeply aware. And the more consistently you return to this truth, the more you transform the inner dialogue that once drained you into a source of strength, clarity, and self-trust. Eventually, you reach a place where, even when the mind generates fear, you can say, "This is just a thought." When doubt whispers, you respond, "This is only a pattern." When your inner critic tries to rise again, you can meet it with steadiness and say, "I decide who I am." And with every repetition of this truth, you strengthen the inner witness that Carl Jung believed was the core of personal awakening, the part of you capable of choosing peace over panic, direction over distraction, and awareness over autopilot. This is how you step into your day, not as a prisoner of your thoughts, but as the thinker who shapes them, the aware being who guides them, and the awakened soul who refuses to hand over your power to passing mental noise ever again. Truth 4. I am grateful for everything I have. When you wake up and quietly say, "I am grateful for everything I have," you are not just repeating words, you are performing a powerful act of consciousness. Seneca once said, "Nothing is more precious than a grateful heart." And this ancient truth still carries the same weight in modern spirituality and spiritual awakening. Gratitude is not a form of weakness or naivety. It is one of the most transformative psychological and spiritual practices you can embody. When you express gratitude, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals that create joy, motivation, and inner peace. In that moment, your body begins to relax, your mind begins to open, and your heart remembers that abundance is already here. Gratitude is an anchor. It roots your awareness in the present moment and shifts your attention away from what's missing to what's already given. You stop chasing after what you think you need and start recognizing how much beauty already surrounds you. Carl Jung taught that transformation begins when we change our inner attitude, and gratitude is the simplest way to do that. By focusing on what is good, even in small ways, you reprogram your subconscious to expect harmony instead of chaos, to see light instead of darkness. Every time you say, "I am grateful," you send a signal to your nervous system that you are safe, supported, and guided. Gratitude rewires perception. It sharpens your ability to notice grace in ordinary things. The warmth of sunlight, the sound of laughter, the comfort of a quiet morning. It helps you see that even your pain has purpose, that even loss carries lessons, and that every closed door is protecting you or redirecting you towards something meant for you. Gratitude changes the frequency of your energy, making you magnetic to experiences that mirror your appreciation. In spirituality, this is known as vibrational alignment, the moment when what you feel internally begins to shape what you attract externally. The more you practice this truth, the more your world begins to shift. Sleep improves because your mind stops replaying what's wrong. Optimism rises because you learn to trust the unseen rhythm of life. Your immune system strengthens because your body is no longer trapped in constant defense. Gratitude becomes your invisible armor, protecting your peace in moments of uncertainty. It doesn't mean you ignore pain. It means you meet it with wisdom. You start to see challenges as opportunities for deeper awareness, and every breath becomes a silent prayer of thanks. Saying, "I am grateful for everything I have," each morning teaches you to look at life through the eyes of wholeness rather than lack. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about realizing that even in imperfection, there is perfection. Gratitude connects the heart and the mind, turning daily routine into sacred ritual. It's the moment your soul whispers, "I have enough. I am enough." And when you live from that space, abundance, clarity, and peace naturally follow. This is not mere positivity, it is power. The kind of power Carl Jung spoke of, born not from control, but from awareness. From a heart that knows everything it needs is already here. Truth 5. Life is short. I am not sure there will be another dawn. These words are not meant to fill you with fear, but to wake you up from spiritual sleep. Inspired by Memento Mori, remember that you will die. This truth is a doorway to deep clarity and purpose. When you truly understand the brevity of life, every morning becomes sacred. You stop wasting your energy on meaningless conflicts, and you start aligning your actions with your highest values. Spirituality is not about escaping death. It is about living so consciously that death no longer terrifies you. Each sunrise is a reminder that you have been given one more chance to love deeply, to act wisely, and to walk in alignment with your soul's calling. So when you open your eyes tomorrow, do not rush into your tasks. Pause and ask yourself, if today were my last day, would I be proud of how I lived it? Let that question burn softly within you. Let it reorder your priorities. You will begin to see that most of what causes you stress is temporary and meaningless in the grand scheme. The noise fades, and what remains are your relationships, your integrity, and your growth. In the light of mortality, clarity blooms. You become more honest, more courageous, more present. This is the essence of spiritual development, stripping away illusions until only truth remains. Contemplating your own impermanence will not make you morbid, it will make you alive. When you realize that time is limited, you will stop postponing joy and start living intentionally. You will speak the words you've been holding back, forgive faster, and love deeper. You will pursue what nourishes your soul rather than what feeds your ego. Spirituality is not found in endless seeking, but in simple awareness that every breath, every heartbeat, and every choice is precious. Remember, power does not come from controlling life. It comes from aligning with its impermanence. That is the secret Carl Jung hinted at. When you stop fighting time, you find timelessness within. By facing the truth of mortality, you transcend it. The wise do not fear death. They let it shape their priorities, refine their purpose, and deepen their gratitude. And as you move through your day with this awareness, you will notice a quiet strength rising inside you, a calm that nothing external can disturb. So, let this truth live in your heart. Life is fleeting, but meaning is eternal. Ask yourself often, if this were my last dawn, would I be proud? If the answer is yes, continue. If the answer is no, change course now. This daily reflection is not just a habit, it is a form of prayer, a practice of presence, and the foundation of true spirituality. When you learn to live as if each day were your last, you begin to live as your highest self, free, awake, and aligned with the rhythm of your soul. 4. Practice 7-day morning reset ritual. This 7-day morning reset ritual is designed to anchor your mind in clarity and inner strength from the very first moments of the day, because the way you speak to yourself each morning determines the tone of your spirituality, your focus, and the depth of your spiritual awakening throughout the rest of your day. The practice begins with something simple yet profoundly intentional, writing down 5 affirmations that reflect the mindset, identity, and energy you want to strengthen. These are not just positive statements. They are declarations that shape your internal world before external noise begins to interfere. When you put these 5 affirmations on paper, you signal to your subconscious mind that you are choosing awareness over autopilot, choosing discipline over distraction, and choosing growth over stagnation. This first step already shifts your energy, because writing activates the mind in a deeper way than thinking alone, helping your subconscious recognize these affirmations as truths instead of empty phrases. Once your 5 affirmations are written, you take a few slow, grounding breaths to calm the nervous system and open the mind. These breaths are not just a pause. They are the doorway that prepares your inner world to receive the messages you are about to repeat. After breathing, you read each affirmation aloud 10 times. This repetition is the core of the ritual, because repetition is what reprograms the subconscious. And as Carl Jung taught, the subconscious is the invisible architect that shapes your reactions, your emotions, your choices, and the hidden patterns that guide your life. By repeating an affirmation 10 times, you push it beyond surface-level thought and into the deeper layers where your beliefs live, where identity is formed, and where true change begins. Speaking an affirmation once may inspire you temporarily, but speaking it 10 times trains your mind to believe it, embody it, and use it as a lens through which you interpret your day. As you continue this practice each morning for 7 days, you will begin to notice how each repetition makes the affirmations feel more natural, as if they are slowly shifting from hopes into truths. On some mornings, the words will feel powerful and empowering. On others, they may feel distant or challenging, but that contrast is part of the transformation. The affirmations work because they meet you exactly where you are and guide you gently toward the identity you are choosing to build. Over time, you may notice subtle changes. Your mood stabilizes more easily. Your reactions become more deliberate. Your focus sharpens, and your resilience grows. This happens because your subconscious, trained through daily repetition, begins to act like an internal compass, helping you stay aligned with your intentions even when life becomes noisy or unpredictable. This 7-day ritual is not just about affirmations. It is about claiming the first moments of your day before the world claims them for you. It is about choosing alignment before pressure, choosing inner grounding before outer demands, and choosing deliberate consciousness before the day has the chance to pull you into chaos. When practiced consistently, this ritual strengthens your spiritual discipline, deepens your spirituality, and supports your ongoing spiritual awakening by reminding you daily that you are not a passive participant in your life, but an active creator of your inner experience. Through writing, breathing, and repeating your 5 affirmations 10 times each morning, you teach your mind to work with you instead of against you, allowing your days to unfold with more clarity, strength, and intentional direction. In the end, these 5 simple morning statements are not just words. They are daily acts of alignment, reminders of who you are becoming, and anchors that help you step into your power with clarity and intention. As Carl Jung taught, the thoughts you choose to repeat shape the reality you live. And when you begin your day with purpose, your entire life begins to transform. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Your journey to unshakable power starts every morning. Keep choosing it. The hidden power, a broken empath, awakens only after walking through their darkest night. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. Khalil Gibran. Every empath knows what it means to feel deeply, but only those who have walked through the darkest night understand the power that pain can awaken. In today's video, the hidden power, a broken empath, awakens only after walking through their darkest night on Spiritual Wisdom. We'll explore how heartbreak, loss, and emotional depth can become sacred teachers, guiding you toward strength, self-awareness, and spiritual awakening. Have you ever felt that your deepest wounds were actually shaping your greatest transformation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone who's still finding light in their own darkness. 1. The rupture creates a special sense of perception. It is the rupture, the deep wounds, betrayals, abandonments, and unbearable pain that creates an empath's extraordinary sense of perception. For when the heart is split open, something rare awakens within the soul. What seems like destruction from the outside is actually an internal expansion that allows the empath to feel life in ways most people never can. The pain that once brought them to their knees becomes the catalyst for a different kind of sight, a spiritual awakening that sharpens sensitivity, amplifies intuition, and transforms every crack in their spirit into an entry point for deeper wisdom. In the language of spirituality, the empath does not break. They become more permeable to truth. As these emotional fractures form, the empath begins to develop a heightened awareness of subtle energies, hidden intentions, and unspoken emotions. What others overlook becomes painfully, almost overwhelmingly clear to them. They can sense tension beneath a smile, detect dishonesty in a single shift of tone, and absorb the atmosphere of a room the moment they step into it. This perception is not learned. It emerges from the soul's attempt to protect itself after being hurt so deeply. Over time, it becomes a natural part of how they move through the world, a silent skill born from surviving emotional storms that would have hardened or closed off most people. But the empath, instead of shutting down, becomes more attuned, more awake, more receptive. This sharpening of perception is one of the empath's greatest spiritual gifts, though it rarely feels that way at first. What was once dismissed as oversensitivity now becomes a unique form of intelligence, emotional, intuitive, and energetic all at once. Their inner compass becomes extremely accurate, guiding them away from people who would harm them and toward the relationships, environments, and choices that align with their spirit. In this sense, the wounds that once created fear now serve as a powerful filter that helps the empath navigate life with clarity. Every betrayal teaches them discernment. Every abandonment teaches them inner fortitude. Every heartbreak teaches them what is real and what is false. Pain becomes the tutor that shapes their perception into a finely tuned instrument. As this inner transformation unfolds, the empath begins to understand that what they once saw as weakness was actually preparation for spiritual wisdom. Their sensitivity becomes a way of reading the world, of understanding human nature beyond surface appearances. It becomes easier for them to recognize manipulation, confrontation, or hidden motive, not because they are suspicious, but because their spirit remembers the feeling of being wounded and refuses to be deceived again. They acquire a quiet strength, the kind that does not shout or demand, but simply knows. And this knowledge is what sets them apart. It is subtle but unshakable, a strength that lives inside the softest parts of them. Through this awakening, the empath learns to trust their intuition, the gentle feeling that rises from within, the whisper that warns them or encourages them, the internal signal that becomes stronger the more they honor it. The rupture that once threatened to break them becomes the very force that refines them. Their emotional landscape, once chaotic and overwhelming, becomes an intricate map, guiding them toward higher consciousness. And in this seamless unfolding, they discover that every crack in their soul was not a place of weakness, but an opening through which their deepest strength was born. When you've walked through the darkness and learned to see beyond the surface, you begin to perceive life through the eyes of the soul. If you're ready to embrace this new level of awareness, comment below, "I will meditate," and let the universe know you're awakening to your deeper spiritual power. 2. Broken empaths are not destroyed, they are opened. Broken empaths are not destroyed, they are opened. And when you look closely at your own journey, you can feel that truth in the deepest part of your being, because the moment you cracked was also the moment something ancient and powerful within you began to awaken. What felt like collapse was actually the beginning of a spiritual development process that pulled you out of the life you once knew and into a path where every emotion, every memory, and every wound became a teacher. This breaking is not only psychological, it is, as many wisdom traditions and Carl Jung himself acknowledged, a mystical ritual, a kind of inner initiation that only those who have carried unbearable weight can endure. When Jung spoke of the wounded healer, he described the exact transformation you are living. The pain you once feared becomes the force that sharpens your awareness strengthens your intuition, and opens a doorway to wisdom that no comfort-based life could ever give. As you move through your darkest night, trembling in the uncertainty of who you were and who you are becoming, that trembling is not weakness. It is proof that your system is recalibrating, that your old identity is dissolving, so a stronger and more conscious one can emerge. The wound becomes a god, not because suffering is holy, but because what suffering forces you to develop integrity, depth, clarity, and presence becomes something sacred. You begin to sense that something inside you has shifted forever. Where other people numb themselves, you feel everything. Where others look away from discomfort, you lean in because you now understand that every emotion contains information. This heightened sensitivity is not fragility. It is the refinement of your inner instrument, the sharpening of perception that only broken empaths ever experience. This is the point where spirituality stops being theory and becomes lived truth. You notice that your empathy evolves. Instead of absorbing the pain of others, you begin to read the truth behind their actions, their intentions, and the energy they carry. You become less reactive and more discerning. You stop sacrificing yourself in the name of compassion because you finally understand that genuine compassion requires boundaries, self-respect, and the strength to say no when something violates your peace. Your softness becomes anchored. Your kindness becomes conscious. Your energy becomes less available to chaos. This is the hidden power you awaken after breaking the ability to feel deeply without losing yourself. Every fracture you once hated becomes a channel through which clarity flows. Every wound becomes a map that helps you navigate the human soul. Every dark night becomes a turning point that expands your capacity to understand life with maturity and depth. You develop an inner authority, an unspoken presence that others feel even before you speak, because you now carry both your light and your darkness with honesty. And when you encounter someone who is hurting, you no longer rush to save them. Instead, you guide them only when your spirit knows they are ready, because you understand that real healing cannot be forced. This is the essence of your spiritual development, the transformation of raw pain into refined wisdom. What was meant to break you has become the very thing that rebuilt you from the inside out, shaping you into someone whose strength does not shout, but resonates. Someone whose insight does not come from books, but from surviving. And in that survival, you have become what Jung spoke of, the healer who can touch the wounds of life because they know those wounds intimately, and through them, you have risen into a version of yourself that carries depth, awareness, and an unshakable sense of truth. Do you feel it too, that being broken didn't destroy you? It opened you? If you believe that your pain became the doorway to your awakening, declare it now. Comment below. I am open, not broken. Let the world know your transformation has already begun. 3. True power only emerges when the empath faces and integrates with the jack in the dark. True power begins to rise the moment you stop running from the jack in your darkness and finally turn toward him. Because every empath carries a shadow they were taught to fear: anger they swallowed, instincts they muted, and boundaries they never learned to speak. Yet this shadow is not your enemy. It is the missing half of your strength, waiting to be reclaimed. You grew up knowing how to love, to give, and to endure. But after walking through your darkest night, you discover that love without boundaries is not love, but self-abandonment, and that safety without protective instincts is a fragile illusion. Carl Jung captured this truth when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious," reminding you that your spiritual wisdom expands only when you let both your tenderness and your toughness sit at the same table. As you integrate the parts of yourself you once rejected, something profound awakens. Compassion becomes sharper, intuition becomes bolder, and your energy stops spilling into people who refuse to meet you with respect. Because now, your no is just as sacred as your yes, and your heart no longer negotiates its worth to feel needed. This integration transforms you into a hybrid soft yet unbreakable, because you finally understand that light is most powerful when it walks with darkness beside it, not buried beneath it. You begin to sense that your anger is not a threat, but a compass pointing to what violates your soul. Your fear is not weakness, but preparation, whispering what to watch for. And your silence is not emptiness, but a depth that teaches others how to treat you before you ever speak. Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And now you see how often you mistook survival patterns for destiny, how often you called disconnection compassion, and how many times you let someone's chaos rewrite your peace. But those days end the moment you let your shadow walk with you instead of behind you. Because when you stop trying to be only light, your empathy shifts from sacrificing yourself to honoring yourself, and your boundaries shift from walls to intelligent gates that open only for reciprocity, respect, and truth. In this new wholeness, you stop rescuing adults from the lessons they must face. You end the silent agreements that drained your spirit, and you finally learn to protect your generosity so it becomes a blessing rather than a burden. Your nervous system calms because it no longer confuses conflict with danger. Your heart heals because it no longer confuses forgiveness with reunion. And your mind strengthens because it no longer confuses empathy with surrender. You love differently, not to be chosen, but because you have already chosen yourself. You speak differently, not to be liked, but to be understood. You move differently, not out of fear, but out of alignment. And you rise differently rooted, conscious, intentional, because, as the Jungian saying goes, no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. And your roots have finally been honored instead of hidden. Through this integration, you become whole and powerful, carrying both the light that heals and the shadow that protects. This is the true awakening of the broken empath. Not losing softness, but reclaiming strength. Not abandoning love, but anchoring it in truth. Not walking away from the darkness, but letting it become the foundation of your deepest spiritual wisdom. Leave your like and subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss new insights on your spiritual awakening journey. Comment below, "I embrace my shadow and rise in power," to affirm your transformation and inspire others to face their own darkness with courage. 4. Broken empaths become fire masters, people who can hold other people's darkness. Broken empaths become fire masters, not because they are endlessly gentle, but because life has dragged them into the flames and forced them to face every shadow they once tried to outrun. They are forged in the kind of darkness that strips a person down to their most vulnerable truth, the kind that tears apart every illusion of safety, belonging, or rescue. They are not soft because they never experienced pain. They are soft because they have survived so much of it that their spirit now recognizes suffering in others with an almost supernatural clarity. Carl Jung said, "There is no birth of consciousness without pain." And the empath learns this, not through theory, but through lived experience, through nights when their own heart felt split open and abandoned, broken, and broken again, until something deeper awakened within them. This awakening is not dramatic but steady, like a flame rekindling in a soul that refused to die. It marks the moment they stop sitting in the fire of their old wounds, the moment they rise, trembling but alive, carrying a wisdom that could only be earned by walking through their darkest night. When an empath has been shattered and still chooses to stand back up, they step into a strength that cannot be fabricated, a strength born from endurance, from surviving what should have destroyed them. This is why they become fire masters. They no longer fear intensity, emotional storms, or the darkness in others, because they have already met the darkness inside themselves and lived to tell the story. Their presence becomes a quiet force, not one that extinguishes the pain of others, but one that can hold it without collapsing. They do not rescue, they do not smother, and they do not run. They sit with someone's truth the way they once learned to sit with their own, with honesty, steadiness, and a kind of sacred neutrality that makes others feel safe enough to unravel. Their compassion is not naive. It is seasoned, weathered, and sharpened by everything they have endured. When they look at someone who is hurting, they do not see weakness. They see a version of themselves from long ago, a self they fought to heal. And because of that, they do not turn away. The pain they lived through becomes their lens. The abandonment they faced becomes their anchor. What once fractured them becomes the foundation of their intuition. They notice the trembling beneath someone's voice, the forced smile, the quiet ache hiding behind carefully chosen words. They listen with their entire being. They feel with the accuracy of someone who has known how it feels to be unseen, unheard, and misunderstood. Their empathy is not softness, it is mastery. It is the ability to hold another person's darkness without being swallowed by it, to witness suffering without absorbing it, to be present without losing themselves. And so, their power is exactly what the original content reveals. A presence that does not lessen the pain of others, but allows that pain to finally be held without judgment or fear. They do not remove the fire. They sit with you in it, showing you that you can survive it too. This is the hidden power of the broken empath, the power born from surviving their own darkness so completely that they become someone who can walk into another person's shadows without trembling. This is the quiet strength that only those who have been broken, abandoned, and rebuilt from the inside out ever truly understand. 5. The greatest danger: identifying with pain. The greatest danger for an empath has never been the presence of pain itself, but the silent, unconscious act of identifying with that pain until it becomes a false sense of self. When you, as an empath, begin to believe that suffering is your identity, you unintentionally trap your own soul in a cycle that dims your inner power. Many empaths stay asleep in this cycle because they become absorbed in roles that keep them busy but not awake. Some fall into the endless habit of being a researcher, always analyzing emotions, reading between lines, trying to decode every situation, and studying the behavior of others as though understanding the world will somehow heal the wounds inside. This constant searching becomes exhausting because it replaces true healing with intellectual overthinking, leaving no space for emotional peace or spiritual development. Others mistake kindness for self-sacrifice, offering compassion so automatically that they erase their own needs in the process, slowly canceling their identity in the name of being good. This auto-cancellation may look noble on the outside, but inside, it creates a dangerous emptiness where you forget that you deserve care just as much as you give it. As boundaries blur, many empaths also attract abusers, not because they are weak or naive, but because their open heart sends an unspoken signal that they will tolerate behavior that chips away at their well-being. When you do not know how to say no, the world fills your life with people who take advantage of your yes, and what begins as empathy slowly becomes self-betrayal. And then there is the deeper pattern, repeating old traumas in an unconscious attempt to complete a soul story that was never fully healed. You find yourself in familiar pain with new faces, believing it is coincidence, when in truth, it is your psyche trying to replay the wound until it understands what freedom feels like. Carl Jung described this cycle perfectly when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is where spirituality becomes essential, because true spiritual development requires not running from these patterns, but seeing them clearly enough to transform them. Yet the moment everything changes is the moment you stop calling yourself a victim and begin to recognize that your sensitivity is a strength that has simply been misused. Awakening begins the instant you choose to love yourself, not only in your light, but also in your darkness, accepting the parts of you that were once rejected or ignored. When an empath finally extends compassion inward, rather than outward alone, their entire energy shifts. You begin to trust your intuition instead of doubting it. You stop researching people's motives because you can feel the truth immediately. You stop canceling yourself to keep the peace because you understand that peace built on self-erasure is not peace at all. You stop accepting abusive behavior because you recognize that your heart is sacred, not disposable. And you stop repeating trauma because you finally know you are worthy of a new story. In this space of renewed clarity, every boundary becomes an act of self-respect. Every no becomes a declaration of self-worth. And every moment of self-love becomes a doorway into deeper wisdom. Only then does the broken empath awaken into their true power, stronger, clearer, and more spiritually grounded than ever before. If you've made it this far, it means you're truly reflecting on your own healing. Type, "I release my pain" in the comments to affirm your growth, and let us know you're ready to rise above identification with suffering. 6. The transformation of consciousness into a symbol of transformation. The transformation of the soul. When consciousness is forced to break open, it does not collapse into ruin the way you once feared. It transforms, reshaping itself into a living symbol of inner rebirth. And this is exactly what happens to the empath who has walked through their darkest night. You begin to realize, often painfully, that your sensitivity was never the problem. What truly harmed you was the lack of boundaries, the self-abandonment, and the belief that you had to carry what was never yours to hold. As the old layers fall away, you start noticing subtle but powerful shifts taking place inside you. You no longer absorb every emotion around you like a sponge, because now you can feel without drowning, sense without losing yourself, and care without collapsing under the weight of other people's storms. This marks the moment when your empathy matures into spiritual wisdom, the kind Carl Jung hinted at when he said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos," because suddenly the inner noise quiets, and you discover a center within you that cannot be shaken. From this place of clarity, you no longer save people simply because they are suffering, or because their pain echoes the wounds you have not yet healed. You stop rushing into other people's fires, recognizing that healing can never be forced, borrowed, or done on someone else's behalf. And because of this, your no becomes calm, steady, and grounded, while your yes becomes conscious, deliberate, and aligned with your truth. This is not selfishness, it is self-respect. You finally understand that compassion without boundaries is self-destruction disguised as kindness. And so you begin offering support in ways that do not drain you, harm you, or pull you back into old patterns of emotional survival. Slowly, your heart becomes softer, but your backbone stronger, and the world can no longer manipulate you through guilt, fear, or the longing to be needed. As this transformation deepens, something even more beautiful begins to unfold. You start reflecting hope to others, not through grand gestures or dramatic rescues, but through the quiet steadiness of someone who has walked through darkness and learned to carry their own light. You become like a lamp in the night, not because you are trying to shine, but because healing has made you luminous in ways you never expected. People sense it. They feel safer around you, calmer in your presence, and more willing to face their own shadows, simply because your energy shows them that survival is possible and transformation is real. And this is when you step into the archetype of the thorn in the storm, the one who remains centered even when everything around you falls into hysteria. You hold your inner ground not by resisting life, but by understanding it. You are no longer reactive. You are responsive. You are no longer fragile. You are forged. In every challenge, you recognize the deeper invitation to grow. In every moment of fear, you sense the opportunity to return to yourself. This is the quiet, unshakable power a broken empath awakens after walking through the night that once threatened to destroy them. It is not loud, not dramatic, not forceful. It is steady. It is sacred. It is yours. If this message speaks to your soul, and you're ready for your own transformation, declare it boldly. I welcome this transformation into my consciousness. My soul is rising. 7. Broken empaths are the mission of all humanity, the frequency upgrader of the file. Broken empaths are the mission of all humanity, the frequency upgraders of the collective field, and their purpose extends far beyond individual healing. They are the silent keepers of light who hold the vibration steady when the world begins to fracture, the ones who dissolve ancestral shadows, heal emotional wounds buried for generations, and restore harmony within their families and communities. Their gift is not their sensitivity alone, but their extraordinary ability to stand at the threshold between light and darkness without breaking. In the realm of spirituality, They represent the bridge between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the ordinary self and the divine soul, serving as conduits through which healing and awareness can flow into the world. Every time a broken empath chooses compassion over bitterness, forgiveness over resentment, or presence over escape, they anchor a new frequency into the human grid. Their path, however, is never easy. They are often born into environments filled with unhealed pain, emotional chaos, or spiritual disconnection, not as punishment, but as initiation. Life tests them until they awaken to the truth that their sensitivity is sacred, not weakness. Through the alchemy of suffering, they learn to transform wounds into wisdom and pain into purpose. This is the essence of spiritual awakening, the realization that darkness was never meant to destroy them, but to refine their inner light. Carl Jung taught that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, and broken empaths embody this principle fully. They do not flee from shadows. They integrate them, turning despair into depth and loneliness into connection with the divine. As they evolve, their energy becomes medicine for others. People feel safe around them because their presence carries balance. They absorb chaos but release calm. They listen not just with their ears, but with their entire soul. And though many misunderstand their quiet strength, those attuned to energy recognize it as the power of alignment, where human emotion and divine awareness merge into one. In every conversation, every silent prayer, every act of kindness, they are unconsciously rewiring the emotional DNA of those around them. Their resilience is not built on resistance, but surrender, the kind that trusts life's rhythm even when it hurts. Ultimately, a broken empath's journey is not about escaping pain, but transforming it into light. Their mission is to remind humanity that wholeness is not perfection. It is the courage to remain open, loving, and present even when broken. They teach us that spiritual awakening does not happen in temples or retreats alone. It happens in the ordinary moments when we choose understanding over judgment and peace over control. And through their example, they show that the highest strength lies not in avoiding darkness, but in learning to stand within it, illuminated, unbroken, and free. In the end, the message is clear. A broken empath does not stay broken. Through the darkest night, you are shaped into someone more intuitive, more resilient, and more spiritually awake than you ever imagined. As Carl Jung reminds us, the wound is the place where the light enters your deepest pain, becomes the birthplace of your hidden power. If this resonates with your journey, let it be a reminder that your strength was never lost. It was being formed in silence, waiting for you to rise. If this video brought you clarity or comfort, please like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss any of our upcoming insights. Your transformation is only beginning.